police officers dawn raided my house.
The fact that you're sticking your head above the parapet, talking about corruption in Oldham, trying to highlight the failings of the police with the grooming gangs.
My neighbours have seen me dragged out of my house. Police officers stormed my house repeatedly. And what they've been doing is harassing me non-stop now for probably about 5 years. 3 different occasions, Nick, they arrested me. Every case either collapsed or what, so that's the context of the police officers coming to my house. It left me suicidal.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's returning and still amazing guest is Raju and Miah. How are you doing?
Hi Nick, good morning. Yeah, I'm here, Nick. I think is some days are great and some days you're just grateful. Yeah, and it's one of those grateful days. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I want to talk about because I wasn't sure if you were going to turn up for this podcast because I didn't speak to you till yesterday evening, and 12 hours later, anything could have happened to you in those 12 hours. And for people who are thinking, what are you going on about? Well, you're the only person I know who's been arrested a few times by the police, and it's always been thrown out of court or no further action, or I'll let you exactly go into those details. And it seems to, well, it's not seems to be, it is the fact that you're sticking your head above the parapet, talking about corruption in Oldham, trying to highlight the failings of the police with the grooming gangs, the cover-up and the abuse of thousands of girls in your area. And for that civic duty, you are persecuted by the police. And they called at your house 1 or 2 days ago and left you a message. And when I saw that on Twitter, I went, they're going to arrest him again. He's been saying something he shouldn't have been saying. When will Raju ever learn? He's not a free man with free speech, living in a free country. When will that man ever learn? What happened the other day?
Well, I don't think I'll ever learn. I don't think any of us should ever learn. And I look at it this way, Nick. If we don't speak out, if we don't use the levers of power that are technically lawfully available to us, to lobby for change, to raise awareness, to put pressure on our government to change its laws because we believe those laws are wrong, or to focus its attention on issues that it doesn't want to focus its attention on, then what happens is what you saw yesterday in Epping, for instance. Yeah. So I'm very clear. I believe in this. I lead by example, and I think I have a duty to do what I do, Nick, but it's taken its toll. And I thought I was okay with it. And then this is what happened. I came home on Wednesday night, and I come home late, Nick. It's usually I'm in meetings, back-to-back meetings at the moment. There's a lot on. There's a lot on with this grooming gang inquiry and some of the other stuff going on. So, my day starts at 4 or 5 in the morning, and it doesn't finish till 10 o'clock at night, and I'm knackered. I go home and go to bed, wake up, and repeat. Yeah. And I came in, I didn't think anything of it, but yesterday morning when I was leaving the house very early, there was a little calling card from Greater Manchester Police on my doormat. And then, of course, my neighbour catches me in the car park on the way out. They've been round again, says David. And he launches into a tirade of two-tier policing and all the rest of it because my neighbours have seen me dragged out of my house. Police officers stormed my house repeatedly. And my neighbours, for a while, couldn't work it out because, hold on, there's this guy who comes in with his daughter, lives here with his, with 5, 6, 7-year-old daughter, causes no one any issues, is always polite, and then the police are raiding his house repeatedly. And on Wednesday, so this card, basically, I looked on the Ring doorbell. Two police officers from Oldham. I live in Tameside, by the way. So 2 police officers from Oldham are outside of their jurisdiction coming and knocking on my door. It should be Tameside police officers first and foremost who come to my door. And they are 2 bearded Muslim police officers, which made me chuckle, shall I say. Yeah, it made me chuckle. It's because they know what they're doing. And what they've been doing is harassing me non-stop now for probably about 5 years at least. And that harassment has been only the consequence of me speaking out about 2 issues, but they are interconnected, as we now know. One is the organised crime networks and its relationship with the Labour Party in Oldham. In particular, the leader of Oldham Council herself is gangster affiliated, gangster endorsed. There's not ambiguity there now anymore, is there, Nick? In Arud Shah, chair of the National Constitutional Committee.
Because it's in the newspapers. Like this is facts now.
Yeah. And I campaign against that. I think it's outrageous. And the gangster she's most closely identified with is the Irish shimmy, Dale Cregan's getaway driver, convicted heroin dealer. He's now running as a councillor in one of the wards, right? So he's running as a councillor, and decent people have contacted me, scared, worried. We can't say anything. We can't do anything. What are we meant to do? This is a convicted heroin dealer.
They're not even hiding it anymore, Raju. They're not even trying to hide it. It's as if they're saying, we're too powerful. What are you, the public, going to do about this?
And that's where they've got to. It's out in the open now. And he's running as a candidate, apparently as an independent candidate. He's not an independent candidate, but that's by the by. And I wrote an article, as I always do. And my article is there on X. You'll find it. It's got a picture of Arud Shah, Irishman, and a man called Ray, who runs one of the local tyre shops. He was also a politician. He stood as a candidate for the Lib Dems last time. So, using a photograph that they themselves released in the past, the Labour Party released in the past, because Jim McMahon was out on that campaign trail with those individuals when that photograph was taken. And I write, Nick, I don't swear in my writing. I don't, incite violence. What do I do? Maybe I get you emotive. I get you to feel. That's the purpose of writing. I get you to feel this is wrong. And if we don't do something about this lawfully, legally, then where will it take us? That's the underlying message.
If you technically say something wrong, it's up to those individuals to sue you for defamation. It's up to them to sue you if you cross a line. It's not a police matter.
Well, so these two policemen came along, and I'm always polite, Nick. So I politely responded to them. I emailed them, and the response was ridiculous. They was like from one of them copied in the other one, and they wanted to assist me with one of my social media posts.
What the hell does that mean?
They wanted to what? And they've not responded since. One's away, and the other one will get in touch. I emailed him straight away, politely. Now, two police officers rock up to your door. That's, for me, as a law-abiding citizen, that's of concern and of significance and of importance. And as a law-abiding citizen, I respond appropriately. Now, I contact them. Please, why have you come to visit me? Is there anything I can help you with? No. The purpose is to harass me, intimidate me, put pressure on me. And I do suffer from PTSD, Nick. It's took me a while to get to understand what it is, how I wake up in nervous sweats every night, Nick, 5 a.m. Why I get up now as early as I do is because when the police first hammered up my door and hammered up my door again the second time and the third time, each time I was asleep in bed. 5, 6 in the morning, dawn raiding my house, Nick.
Well, let's get into this because I don't want people watching this going, Raju, 2 officers called at your door. You're going to extremes here. Maybe they were going to be helpful. So we know that's not factual at all. But let's talk about those.
They have my phone number.
Your email address is online. Anyone can find your email address.
I am easily got hold of. If the police wants to speak to me, I'm easily got hold of. No.
Exactly.
These people around to harass me, and the subsequent email and the vague nature in it and the failure for them over 24 hours to respond again to me, I think speaks volumes. It's to put pressure on me, Nick. Yeah,
it does. But let's go back to the other 3 incidents because this then will explain how you know what the police are doing. So what was the first incident with the police at your home?
8 police officers dawn raided my house. 8, Nick.
When you say dawn raided, you mean smash the door down?
They banged on the door until I let them in, Nick, but they had everything there to knock the door through and everything. 8 of them, yeah? Charged into my living room. Barely let me get dressed to tell me I was under arrest for racially aggravated, malicious communication. and something else to do with another woman linked to the Labour Party, harassment or so whatever it was. Yeah, there was something else. And when they arrested me, Nick, they took me to the police station. What they wanted was all of my digital devices because I write, I podcast. They took all that away, and it was clear to me I didn't get that back for over 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. So it was clear to me that this was first and foremost take away the tools he uses to communicate. Yeah. Because when they took me to the police station and they interviewed me, what became very clear was they'd interviewed me off 8 police officers had dawn raided my house off the back of a complaint. They hadn't even at that point interviewed the so-called victims to see what their complaints were.
Wow.
So someone phoned them, coordinated, by the way, both of them, because both of them, Arooj Shah and Gail Hadfield Granger, are later celebrating together. Thumbs up, a Gail Granger who's, a Salford, her husband is infamous for being shot dead by the police. It was a fixed Salford underworld figure. She's with a red Labour Party rosette. Thumbs up with Arooj Shah and Irish Shimmy. Now, what had happened there was Gail Granger was part of Irish Shimmy's defence team when Irish Shimmy sent his scouts to follow me home and boasted about it. I went to the police. The police had to prosecute because he's a dangerous individual. She was part of his defence team. There were 2 men, myself and someone else, and he painted a picture that he'd had us both followed and caught us in some sort of homosexual acts. Complete fabrication, but and I went to the police, and she was part of his defense team, and she managed to get to the other guy and scare him off from testifying. These are facts. Yeah. Part of the defense team going and finding a victim and scaring them off from interviewing. Obviously, the attempts on me is not going to work the same. So I spoke out and I said, listen, I'm going to testify. And I did it online. I'm going to testify. She complained that I'd harassed her. Hold on, this is a woman who, and she put out videos attacking me the day after he got convicted, by the way. Yeah. She omitted all of that, complaining as though she's this victim and this man's done all this stuff. I've never met the woman. I've no interest in her. I'm a political campaigner. Why would I have any interest in her? She then helpfully transcribed what I allegedly said on one of my YouTube videos and handed it over to the police as evidence. This was all after me being arrested and took away. All of this came out of the police. What that transcript showed, they wouldn't show me the video of where I was meant to have said that. I got out for 2 years before I got the video. The CPS also charged me after 6 months of keeping me on bail, house arrest during that time, where they agreed with the transcript of me harassing her and ignored the fact that I'd told the CPS myself that the other witness had been scared off by her, that there'd been attempts to intimidate me from giving evidence, and ignored all of that and charged me. Over 3 years, 3 years that case took before it finally collapsed in court. And do you know what they did, Nick? The transcript was never checked by either the police or the CPS. She fabricated that transcript.
Wow. So let's go to it collapsing in court. What happened? Was you in court?
I was in court on trial. And she never turned up. She never turned up.
She didn't turn up.
No. And the CPS attempted to prosecute me off what's called hearsay evidence. So her statement would just be accepted as fact without it being held up to scrutiny. And that's when the judge just herself lost the plot.
Wow. You know what? Roger, I was going to say mistakes can be made, stuff like that, and I'm sure nothing like that ever happened again. Did it?
The the first time I was arrested was for two offences. The other offence was with against Arud Shah, who was the council leader. A few months earlier, her car had been blown up, and the attempt to frame me for the blowing up of her car had failed because someone had leaked to me the CCTV footage, which showed how she'd left the car unlocked. And these guys knew what they were doing, and they smashed the window after the door had already been opened. So the attempt to frame me, which included Jim McMahon MP, who went to the Daily Mail, alleging I was responsible for inciting what took place, that all collapsed because of the CCTV footage. Otherwise, the likelihood is I would have been arrested and put in prison for that.
This sounds like a bad episode of EastEnders with wannabe gangsters and fitting people up and bribing police and corrupt.
But the police are involved. This is the thing. I get gangsters and gangsters associates doing this, but the police are involved and the CPS is involved. It's not just the police, the CPS involved, and even the national press was involved. The Daily Mirror was involved. Sorry, the Daily Mail was involved. The Daily Mail. I've still got the exchanges with them. And she then claimed that I'd written an article that caused their offence. Had resulted, this is the council leader, I'd written an article, a political article, criticising her political decision-making. And that had caused her alarm and distress, that had resulted in her suffering from PTSD and one side of her face drooping down. The photographs of her, Nick, has that side of her face drooping down long before I wrote the article. And the drooping down of your face, as my defense team went and found out afterwards, is a direct side effect of too much Botox.
Right.
Yeah. So, news to me, Nick. News to you, I think. It's not a world we frequent. Yeah, so that is what took place there. She then also claimed that she was out campaigning and an elderly man, chased her down the street and she held me responsible. The police and the CPS charged me off the back of all of that. When her witness statement came through, of course, I'm a diligent man. I check everything, Nick. So one of the things I checked was, well, which man chased her down the street? Did they interview this man who chased her down the street? Did they stop to ask this man? Did anyone go and ask this man why he chased her down the street? How can it be traced to me? We know who you are and what you did, or words to that effect is what this elderly man said, waving his walking stick or something at her. I then checked the date, Nick. The date was during COVID restrictions when no campaigning was allowed.
Right.
So perhaps this elderly man chased her down the street because he didn't want a politician knocking on his door during COVID. Perhaps. But there's no way you could link it to me. And 5 years later now, Nick, fast forward 5 years later, the article I wrote was to do with Palestinian action and the way the Labour Party in my town were promoting Palestinian action. Palestinian Action now is a proscribed terrorist organisation. I'm a political campaigner. I come from a world of counter-extremism. I called it before the government got to it. Am I not allowed to criticise politicians who encourage and support organisations who have now been prescribed as a terrorist organisation?
Well, you think you would be allowed, but this is Greater Manchester Police.
And the police, of course, that first time, Nick, when they arrested me, before I'd even come home, they'd released information to the newspapers, and the newspapers ran with it, that I'd been arrested as part of a child sexual exploitation investigation.
I saw that. That was the most egregious thing I think I've ever seen Greater Manchester Police do. they framed that press release to make it look like you was a pedophile. So, technically, they will argue, well, it was correct because you look into the grooming gangs, and technically you could argue, well, what they said was technically correct, but they framed it to make you look like a pervert because hardly anybody reads full articles. They read headlines. Your picture, headline, straight away, memory burn, Raju is a paedophile. That's what most people would talk away from that headline. Disgraceful.
It's wrong, isn't it? Yeah. And the context of this, Nick, my daughter was 6 years old at the time. How do I explain to my daughter where our iPad's gone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, she's old enough for kids at school whose parents...
Picking her up from school. Parents are staring at me. Parents are staring, and rightly so, Nick. Parents are staring at me, and rightly so. And then, if you remember, there was that man called Neil Wilby, who was part of their team, the malicious blogger. He contacted my daughter's school.
Wow. Yeah.
It left me suicidal. Like I don't, and that first case, the Arud Shah case, collapsed because she then decided not to give evidence because she knew, what we'd do. And Gail Granger continued the nonsense whilst the Manchester Evening News were waiting for me outside the courts, taking photographs, trying to portray me as some sort of sex offender, some sort of now sex pest on some women, leaving it vague. Nothing to do with the fact that she'd tried to interfere in a case to intimidate the witnesses. No, and that she'd falsely, presenting herself as a lawyer, falsely altered the transcript of what I'd said to make it. I don't hold her responsible, Nick. I hold the police responsible. They should have checked the evidence before they come to arrest me. They should have interviewed these people before they came to arrest me. And then the CPS should not have sat on it for 6 months. And I got in touch with the CPS. They confirmed senior prosecutors in the CPS were reviewing my file.
And this is because you're political. This isn't about criminality. This is about organs of the state doing what the state wants them to do. And for decades now, as you know, all governments for decades have tried to keep a lid on the grooming gang scandal, and they've all been successful, apart from people like you talking about it. So they had to keep that lid on you as much as they could. And then talking about Labour involved in organised crime. Well, we can't have that either, can we? So we need to come down on you as well. This was all politically motivated, as you know.
100%. So the second time then they arrest me, I leave court, and there's a young journalist, female journalist, chatting to one of my supporters. Warren Bates. You remember me talking about Warren Bates, yeah? And Warren's animated and chatting away. I look at him, shake my hand, I'm thinking, Warren, I don't know what you're chatting to her for. If she's not going to write what you say, she's going to go and, yeah? And there was a smear piece on me the following day, yeah? I wrote an article in response because those are the only weapons I've got. No one else is going to tell my story, Nick. The only person who can tell my story is me. I wrote an article. And this young woman, she's from somewhere in the south, has a boat, has a holiday home, completely culturally alien to the world we live in. Yeah.
A white liberal woman.
Yeah. It's not. And what I said in the article when I made reference to her is that if she came with me one night to some of the area, and she was painting me out as a racist and a far right, all of that sort of stuff. If she came with me one night to the areas where I come from and where all of these issues, she'd go back feeling very sore, as in having a headache. Her worldview turned upside down. Her worldview would be turned upside down because the way I was conveying it would be saying there are people in my own community who don't want Labour Party gangsters running their towns. They don't want postal vote fraud, and they are appalled by the gang rape of children. right? And speaking out about these things is not racist or far right. That's my no, and you go back so because your worldview would be turned upside down. They took the word saw. Police officers dawn raided my house again.
Again?
Dawn raided off the back of her going to the police or the Oldham Times going to the police. I never figured out who. Yeah. And apparently I'm at the counting the police, at the desk. No one's told me really what they've arrested me for. And this young police officer comes and says, "Oh yes, he's incited rape."
Oh, Jesus.
They'd arrested me for inciting rape.
Yeah,
That got nowhere.
of course.
Yeah, I got nowhere. I was put on bail. I've never seen another form or anything to say I've ever been lifted off bail or anything.
Mm.
That disappeared. My
Quietly dropped.
Yeah. But again, I live in a quiet part of the world, Nick. My neighbours see me play with my daughter outside. It's a small town. Mosley's a small town. And I'm blessed in many ways because 80% of the people here now know what was done to me, what I stood for. And they see a father with a mixed race child playing out in the park and stuff and think, no, he's fought for us. He's done the right thing. And he's forced, despite what they've done to him, he's forced this to where it is, but that's not how it started, Nick. It started like he's a pedophile, he's this, he's that, he's a man who harasses women.
Yeah. So now it makes perfect sense why finding a calling card from the police on your doormat triggers all those memories, all those feelings, those emotions of, is it all going to happen again? If I
Third
don't,
time.
There's a third time.
Third time they arrested me. Dawn raided my house again. The most ridiculous experience I've had. Another police station took me to Manchester Central this time or whatever. The one where the tram station is. I know because when they kicked me out, I had to go to the tram station.
Newton Heath.
Yeah, and there I am, and they've been even more vague as to why they're arresting me. Drag me out, again, digital devices, all the rest of it. Very nervous-looking young police officers.
Let me just add this about that station that took you to. That's the Greater Manchester terrorist station. When you have terrorists, you take them there because it's been designed to repel terrorist attacks. The cells are terrorist proof. I used to work with Greater Manchester Police when that was being built. That's the #1 terrorist police station in Greater Manchester.
Yeah. So they take me there. Yeah. And put me in a cell for a long time. Out, like 7-8 hours. It's a long time.
Mm.
Police officers turn up. Words to the effect, we're not interviewing you. We just want to chat. And my solicitor like, no, you've pressed record on this. You are interviewing. This is a formal interview. What have you arrested him for? They admit to the arrest being an attempt to put me on remand so that I can't campaign in the forthcoming local election.
They admit that?
Yeah, to my solicitor. They confirm. And it was the reason they arrested me was because I'd gone out to the mosque and posted a video to these guys who were openly inciting my murder. Said, well, I'd lost it by then. I was like, come on then. You keep saying you're going to kill me. You keep saying you're going to commit jihad on me. Come on, I'm right here. I'd reported that and reported that and reported that. I was the victim of crime. They then had to admit that I was the victim of a crime. That arrest was wrong. They should have gone and arrested the men who were inciting my murder. Openly inciting my murder. Openly boasting they had police officers in their pockets. Openly sharing photographs of themselves hanging out with politicians, Labour Party politicians. They arrested me. They had to let me go with no further charge. I caught the tram. And it was when I nearly gave up, Nick. My mum was distraught. She was on her deathbed by that point anyway, and she was distraught, crying her eyes out. And the police, for me, the behavior was they arrested me to put me on remand so I could not campaign in the forthcoming council elections where Amanda Chadderton was standing and we were campaigning to remove her, and she would have been the third Labour Party council leader in a row that we were targeting to remove. All this time speaking out against the grooming gangs, all of that. Now, 3 different occasions, Nick, they arrested me. Every case either collapsed or what, so that's the context of the police officers coming to my house. This isn't, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. This.
And part of, and have I got the strength? I asked myself, I look in the mirror and asked, have I got the strength to go through this again? Because I'll tell you what, I know why they're targeting me again, Nick. Because there's a national inquiry coming. And the journalists can do the headlines. The politicians can play politics, but it'll be left to people like me to campaign to make sure that national inquiry is fit for purpose, to expose its shortcomings, and maneuver the politicians, the newspapers, the press, so that the public awareness is raised so they can hold this to account and get the justice we all want. I know why they target me, Nick, because in the space I occupy, I'm not a Maggie Oliver. She's lovely. She wants to look after the young women who have been harmed. Nothing against that. I'm not a Tommy Robinson who wants to, hold rallies and get angry. I'm a political campaigner. I hold them to account. I mobilize communities. I mobilize people. I use the very laws, the very systems, the very processes that belong to them to attack them. And then we end up in a very uncomfortable place. We end up in a very uncomfortable place where we ask this question. Do the laws apply to all of us? Should politicians involved in criminality not also go to prison?
Yep, they should. And I think that's what me and you want. We need some of these politicians in jail for what they've done, what they've allowed, and what they've covered up.
And the law to be applied equally. So it is the Old Bailey. I mean, the blindfold, all of it, Nick. It goes to the very heart of what we are as a nation. We are either what we believe we are. We are either what we are fighting for us to be, or we something else, something darker, something more sinister. And police officers come into my house repeatedly is sinister.
It is. I hope people can watch this and realize the journey you've been on, what you've been through, what you've overcome, because you've overcome a lot to get to where you are today. And you've contributed to where we are today as a society, with the grooming gang scandal now being admitted and everything.
This would never, I don't promote myself, Nick. I'm not that sort of man. I'm a northern working class bloke. We're naturally conservative, a small, we don't, I'm not a peacock or any of that sort of, it's not in us. We're not like that. But you and I know this national inquiry would never have happened if I hadn't endured what I'd endured and if I hadn't campaigned the way I'd campaigned.
Yep, you kept it alive. Other people kept it alive for those decades when nobody wanted it to be alive. They wanted to put that flame out forever. But a handful of people wouldn't allow that flame to go out. And you was definitely one of those people.
Yeah. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know if they email back to me to say what they wanted and how they wanted to assist me. Maybe they want to help me with my grammar. I don't know.
I think they wanted to assist you on your way back to the police station. I think that's what they wanted to assist you with. We're not going to ask you to. We're not going to arrest you and make you come here by bus. We're going to assist you to get to the police station. That's what I think they're going to do. Let's end on this very simple question. 6 years, going on 7 years of you fighting, of everything that's happened to you. Do you regret it? Are you sorry you started this fight?
No, because I look at my daughter. I look at her friends. It was sports day yesterday. And I was chatting to a whole host of parents there who are very polite to me now. and they always were, but you understand, they know what I've gone through. And she's got another year left in primary school. And I look at those children and I think, no, we are gonna make this country safe for these kids. And they can do what they want to me, Nick. If they arrest me, they put my picture in the paper again. Do you think the nation will believe them now?
No, I also think you may be too big now to bully and persecute. It was easy when you was a nobody and no one had heard of you. This last 6 months, you're a media somebody now. I don't think they're brave enough to pick on you anymore now. But we will see.
We'll see. And if all my equipment disappears, well, I'll go back and buy some more. They're not going to win. We're not going to let them win, because this isn't, this is a fight for the future of our nation. That's what this is. It's bigger than any one of us.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect place to end this. I don't think we could say that better. Raju, you keep fighting. We'll keep talking. Everybody needs to do their bit, and together we will win. Justice always wins in the end. Raju, thank you so much for coming on today.
A pleasure, Nick, as always. Thank you.
Bye-bye.